has Max just got an easy ride? And there's been a lot of people that have been saying on social media, like he was gifted the win last year. And people are saying that this year he's not even having to fight for his championship because Ferrari are just bringing it up.
He himself said after the race that if he continues making mistakes like this, he doesn't deserve to win the championship. And I think that's absolutely correct because,
I don't know what it is, but Lando fans seem to just be out to get George all the
yes,
time. And it's just a bit jarring, to be honest, because I'm like, just focus on your driver.
like the two drivers back together. And I don't know if you've seen all the tweets about that One Direction trend, just how fast the night changes with that picture of George in the green jumper and them nowadays. So it's crazy how far the both of them have come, and it's nice to see Mercedes back up there.
Hi everyone, welcome back to On the Chicane. You're here with me, Marium, and not my usual co-host. You're here with Steph Wentworth.
Hello,
Paris
everyone.
is away. She's currently living her best life. So I'm so happy to be joined by Steph today. For those of you who don't know, Steph is a motorsport presenter. She has literally just got off the plane, has finished presenting the V10R League in Abu Dhabi, I believe.
Yeah.
She's also worked with F1 and has done loads of work in esports. So if you're not familiar with her, definitely check her out. Her profiles will be linked below. But yeah, it's just really exciting to have Steph on. I've been wanting to have Steph on for a while. So looking forward to hearing your perspective on everything about the French Grand Prix.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on. I'm so buzzing to be here. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we're very excited to have you. So I suppose let's just dive right into it. The French Grand Prix obviously happened this weekend. It's a Grand Prix that's very notorious for being just a shit race. Like people just don't
No
like
sugarcoating that at
it.
all.
Why bother, right? People just don't like it. People don't like Paul Ricard. They think it's a boring circuit. But I do think that this weekend gave us more than I think we expected. Um, I mean, we can debate whether or not we're happy with the final result, but
I feel like I prefer Paul Ricard to you. I feel like you're more on the cynical side and I'm more like optimistic and seeing its better qualities.
I mean, kudos to you for that. I don't know if there's many other F1 fans out there who are, who are with you, but I mean, I try not to be so like
Yeah,
cynical as you say, but there are definitely more exciting tracks out there. Um,
100%.
but it, like I say, it did give something this weekend. So there is something for us to talk about. It may not be a lot, but there's a few things that we can discuss. Um, so yeah, like I said, let's just get straight into it. Um, Max Verstappen won. He
Indeed.
didn't really have much of a challenging race. I think it was pretty easy for him after we had Ferrari's big bust up. And I think that was the biggest talking point that came away from this weekend. So Leclerc obviously binned it into the wall. And then you had
Ooh.
Sainz with a bit of a questionable strategy. What's your opinion on Ferrari and how they've kind of started the season and where they've kind of ended up so far?
It's interesting because I think Leclerc completely has it in him to be fighting for the championship. He's a really talented driver, but I think he himself said after the race that if he continues making mistakes like this, he doesn't deserve to win the championship. And I think that's absolutely correct because of Max's races, he hasn't really made any of the mistakes. He's really consistently up there, and unless he's had a reliability issue or damage on the car, he's always been at the front of the grid fighting for that win. So I think in comparison, Max is definitely performing much better. There was a great battle between them kind of at the beginning of the race. Max was properly attacking, and I think Leclerc did a brilliant job of defending from him. but yeah, that mistake definitely cost him. And I definitely think Ferrari as well is just a problem as a whole. People are saying, oh, Leclerc needs a better team. And it's like Ferrari is a great team, 100%. But I think the issue just is that they're so indecisive with what they do. And that's the issue that they had with Carlos Sainz. You know, he said, we need to make this decision now. And then it was like 2-3 laps later where Ferrari's like, yeah, box now. And it's like, no, I'm in the middle of an overtake. Leave me alone.
Yeah, it made no sense. I was like, are you even watching what is going on right now? It was just the most bizarre timing. Um, but yeah, I mean, the like what happened with Leclerc, it kind of left his championship in question. And now
Yeah.
it's kind of like, has Max just got an easy ride? And there's been a lot of people that have been saying on social media, like he was gifted the win last year. And people are saying that this year he's not even having to fight for his championship because Ferrari are just bring it up. So
Yeah, I think 63 points is the difference between them in the championship now. So that's miles and miles in comparison, especially to what we had with Max and Lewis last year. It was so close between them, and 63 just seems like an insurmountable gap.
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if he can build that back up, considering how well Red Bull have been doing. But actually, that being said, about how they've been doing and how well Max has been driving, Perez, on the other hand, hasn't really been doing as well. Had a bit of a difficult race yesterday, and there's a lot of people out there that are speculating that Perez is the guinea pig, which, if he was, would make sense because, you know, Max is the one who's holding the lead and they'd want him to win. But do you think it's fair? What do you think?
I don't know. This one's a hard one because I think the battle with Max and Perez was interesting as well because Checo, I think it was Spain where he was basically told to move so that Max could win, and then he came back in Monaco and obviously won the race. So he's clearly got, a bit of fire to win the championship. It's sad that Red Bull haven't really given him that same opportunity, but we all know that, Verstappen is the guy that they put all of their hopes in. They completely back him from the start, and Checo is that second driver. No one's trying to hide that. It's a very, obvious fact.
Yeah.
That has been stated by, the Red Bull team as well. Christian Horner is, very vocal about the fact that that all of the eggs are in Max's basket, and Checo is doing a fantastic job of being that second driver and picking up points when Max needs it. And I think what we were alluding to is the fact that Red Bull is under pressure to be changing this floor, which is allegedly problematic under the regulations. So the assumption is that Checo has been testing new variations of this floor, which I think, if that's what's going on, it's a very, very smart move because the implementation of the new floor regulations and adaptations is coming, I believe, after the summer break at Spa, which means, there's only a few races before. Now we've only got Hungary coming up before the new regulations are being implemented. So it's really interesting. I think it's a smart move from Red Bull to start kind of trialing this new system that they're going to have in place and seeing what works, what doesn't, before they put it on Max's car and potentially, harm his challenge by the car not being as rapid.
Yeah, I mean, very good point. I think it's like you say, I think it's smart for Red Bull to use Perez in that way. And I think given the circumstances, Perez is actually racing pretty well. Like,
Yeah,
if he is the guinea pig and he is the one who's been given like all the different setups and the different flooring and whatever, then he is doing well to try and stay up there. But I just think there's a lot of people who are questioning that on social media and a lot of people that are saying that it's unfair. But I think given their position and given Max's position as a team, it kind of makes sense. You would do that, wouldn't you? You would put
100%.
yeah.
Yeah, and teams lower down the grid do the exact same thing. You know, Alex Albon was giving the Williams upgrade at Silverstone. Nicholas Latifi didn't have it. And I think Haas is now upgrading K-Mag's car and not Nick's car. So other teams do it, you know, with whichever driver is the strongest at that time. So I think just because Red Bull is at the front, it just makes it a bit more controversial. But it's not a new thing that teams are just now implementing.
Yeah, no, definitely not. It's been going on for years. So I do think sometimes social media can be a bit of a harsh place where people just come to just vent and chuck out their opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, on to, I suppose, much more positive news.
Mm-hmm.
Both of the Mercedes drivers ended up on the podium this weekend. It was their first double podium. Pretty exciting, especially if you're a Mercedes fan, a Lewis Hamilton fan, and George Russell fan. People are loving the romance between them two.
I know.
So I think, given how well, I mean, George has been called Mr. Consistency this entire season. Hamilton seems to be getting up there as well. So it looks like Mercedes are slowly, quietly creeping back up there.
Yep, and it's working for them. Whatever they're doing, it's working because double podium, it's great. I think Lewis was tweeting, he was like, "This is the first podium I've had with this guy," and I was like, "Oh, it's really, really nice, really sweet." Like the two drivers back together, and I don't know if you've seen all the tweets about, you know that One Direction trend, just how fast the night changes with that picture of George in the green jumper, and them nowadays. So it's crazy how far the both of them have come, and it's nice to see Mercedes back up there. You know, everyone was waiting for this dominant spell to end, and it's kind of ended for Mercedes, but it started with Red Bull. It's like we didn't just want another era of domination. We wanted, you know, proper racing, and it's really good that Mercedes has been able to claw it back. And it looks like we are going to get a real great fight for the championship right at the top, because that's what we all want.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they brought in all these new rules and regs this year. So I think we are obviously still in the early stages of this new era of Formula One. But it's nice to see that it's working, essentially. And I really hope that we're not just going to see just one team leading the way for the next few years, because it is really nice to have that competition. But yeah, with Mercedes, I think their timing definitely couldn't be better, because we're going into the summer break. They can obviously make a few more changes, amend their car, and then come back. There is a period where they can't actually work on the car. I think it is about 2 weeks, where they genuinely have to just take a break.
Which is nice. It means nobody can get an advantage.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think it's definitely needed. But yeah, so they have got a limited time during the summer break where they can make their changes, but I guess only time will tell, and we'll see how they come back. We've got a triple header straight after the summer break. We're going Spa, Zandvoort, then Italy, and it's going to be crazy, but it's going to be very telling. So yeah, I can't wait to see how it kind of works out towards the end of the year for Mercedes. So very quickly, just talking about the two drivers who it was their home race.
Yeah.
Had Esteban Ocon, who races for Alpine, and then we had Pierre Gasly, who races for AlphaTauri. Both of them racing in their home race. Both of them had very different races. What do you think of Gasly's career and Gasly's year so far?
Ooh, interesting question. I like it. I think this year hasn't been as strong for him as last year, because last year he was, you know, one of the breakout performers, and the year before, when he got his first win. So he's been kind of on a roll for a couple of years now, and it feels like it's come to a halt because we're seeing a couple of silly mistakes creeping out. A few issues. He has signed a new contract with AlphaTauri, which I'm not sure how I feel about it. I don't think I'm on board, because it just seems like a stagnant place for your career. I feel like he needed to explore opportunities at other teams. And I know there's not a lot of opportunities on the grid right now, and he would just kind of be sidestepping, wouldn't be jumping into a top team or would potentially be moving backwards. But I think that he needs to get out of the AlphaTauri environment in order to progress his career, because I don't think it's going anywhere with AlphaTauri right now. But yeah, home race. It's nice to race in front of the home crowd. I mean, definitely had a lot of support at home, which is similar with Esteban Ocon. Both of them have the home fans behind them. But I do think they're on very different paths right now. As if we talk about Ocon, he seems to be outperforming Fernando Alonso this year, which is a nice thing to see. Alonso's still got it, but Esteban is, showing that he can absolutely fight with the top dogs. And I think a few weeks ago, Toto actually came out and said, when Lewis leaves, Ocon is one of the drivers that, could potentially end up replacing him. So, yeah, two very different situations there for Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a massive shame to see the way that Gasly's kind of fallen off. Like, he had obviously his opportunity at Red Bull and then was kind of knocked down, and then showed them, actually, you shouldn't have let me go because I actually am a good driver. And since, I think, like you said, it was those 2 years where he was kind of just like on a roll, and then this year I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the car. I mean, I'm gonna assume it is the car because Tsunoda's also having issues. So, I don't think we can blame it on Gasly entirely, but from where he was to where he is, it's just a bit difficult to see. And then, as you say, you've got someone like Ocon who, I don't know, skill-wise, I might put him with Gasly. I might say they're both on par. I've always been a massive Ocon fan.
Oh, me too.
Honestly, like when he left F1, I was so gutted because I was like,
no, me too. Honestly, Ocon is the reason why I didn't like not Pierre Gasly, Sergio Perez at the beginning.
Yeah.
I was like such an Ocon fan, and when they were like fighting each other at Force India / Racing Point, I was like, no, Pierre, no. Why do I keep calling him Pierre? I was like, no, Checo, leave Esteban alone.
Yeah.
And then I was so buzzing when he came back. Oh my gosh, I found another Esteban fan. We're few and far between.
Definitely, because honestly, I was the exact same. I remember just loving him, thinking this guy has definitely got a solid future in F1. And then they dropped him, and I was genuinely gutted. I was like, no,
me too.
I can't. And then they announced that he was coming back, and I was like, this is honestly the best news ever. And he's showing that he's worth the talent. And also, I think it's just, I've just got a massive soft spot for Ocon because of his origin story and how he doesn't come from, the richest
bags of money.
Yeah. So I'm so happy to have found you.
We'll be an Estebesti fan club.
We can actually start one. I'm so ready for this.
Yes, 100%.
But yeah, so I think Ocon definitely having a good season. And like I say, I would put him on par with Gasly and his skills, but it's just got to be the car difference right now. They're just two very different cars. Alpine are obviously picking it up. They both finished in the points yesterday, so they're just in very different places, which is just a shame for Gasly. But it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Who were the other good drivers? I mean, let's talk about Russell a little bit.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Consistency.
I think every race he's finished in the top 5 this year, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is insane consistency, because not even, the top drivers fighting for the championship have that stat. Leclerc and Verstappen have both had retirements. So it's mad, and I think it's really, really impressive what he's been able to do at the beginning of the season. I'm sure you're impressed as well.
Yeah, of course I am. I mean, I think something that I have noticed online is
a lot of hate.
The Lando and George kind of, I don't know what it is, but Lando fans seem to just be out to get George all the time. And it's just a bit jarring, to be honest, because I'm like, just focus on your driver. Like, they're creating this tension, they're creating this hate between the two drivers, and it's just really weird. And
Yes,
yeah, I've seen it a lot, and I'm not feeling it.
I'm not feeling it. I feel like fans should be able to exist. Obviously, there's always going to be fans that disagree with each other and whatnot. But I feel like there has been online just a general dislike for George Russell this year, and I think a lot of it comes from the fact that he has been very vocal about the fact that he's not competing with Lewis. He's not out there to beat Lewis, and I think a lot of fans, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, want George to be fighting Lewis and they want him to be happy about beating him. Whereas George is very much like, this is a team sport. Lewis is doing everything he can to, get the team forward. So I think that could potentially be where some of the beef is coming from. But I really respect George for it. You know what I mean? A lot of people are calling him a PR bot. And I'm like, no, being respectful of your teammate, of, the team and the people working around you. I don't think that is something that should be criticized. I think it's a positive thing.
Yeah. I don't know why people just seem to love drama, and they seem to love the toxic workspace. Like, obviously, Nico and Lewis got a lot of attention because of their rivalry and whatever. And even with Bottas, to an extent, there was a bit of tension between the two of them. But I think it's been really nice to have. I mean, you can just see that George really just looks up to Lewis, and I think it's so sweet, because he's just racing with his hero, and there's nothing wrong with that. You don't need to be hating on him for it. But I think where George has obviously come into a top team and has just shown how good he is, Lando fans for some reason don't like it, and they're just creating all this hate, and it's just shit, to be honest. And I'm not feeling the toxic. Like, F1 Twitter can be a very toxic place.
Like, it can be indeed.
Yeah, Paris and I have discussed this before, and it can be quite difficult sometimes. So
yeah, it can. I think I often, remove myself from the situation. I used to be quite an active, like, during race tweeter. And I know you guys used to be hugely active during races as well. But I think sometimes it's just good to take a step back, because there are always going to be people who don't like what you have to say or can't respectfully, disagree. And it's, such a small percentage of the community, the F1 community, and the majority of people are great, but there are just that small number, like you said, the small number of Lando fans who are creating this drama from nothing. And the small number of, Max and Lewis fans on either side that will, consistently create drama. And so sometimes it's good to just, like, step away. So this is, a PSA to anyone watching, listening. If you feel like it's ever getting too much, just step away from it, because a break will do you some good.
I am 100% going to agree with that. And that is my next thing that I was going to say. Just, it is important to just take some time away sometimes and just remove yourself from this environment, because it can be really horrible. And we're not about that. We're here to spread joy and love. We're all here because we love the sport. Remember, guys, we're not here because it just makes no sense. You're trying to create toxicity between fan bases and whatever. You can support your driver, but you can do it in a very loving manner.
Absolutely.
So,
retweet.
It's been so nice to have you on, Steph. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Like I said, guys, I'm going to link all of Steph's profiles below. She's very active on TikTok as well, which I quite enjoy. So yeah, check her out. Paris and I will be back after Hungary this weekend. It's the last race before the summer break. God knows I need a break. I'm gonna have a very long break, actually. I'm not coming back until, like, I don't know, the Singapore Grand Prix or something, because
We'll miss you.
but I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us again. And
thank you for having me.
Everyone, we will see you again in our next video. Thank you and goodbye.